Hello and welcome back to Book Nerd TV. Today's video is a book tag, and it's a book tag about nonfiction books, of course, and this being Nonfiction November, it's a perfect time to do this tag. Question number 1, how much nonfiction do you read? Well, I'd say my nonfiction reading takes up about 45 to 50%, so you might as well say 50%, right? So roughly 50% of my reading is nonfiction. The second question is, what kind of nonfiction videos do I want to make on BookTube? The type of nonfiction videos that I have in my mind for BookTube is either going to be book hauls, and that will more than likely be backlist nonfiction book hauls, or it will be a impression, review, discussion of a nonfiction book that I've read. So those are the type of nonfiction videos that I think that I'll be making, or I'm certain that I'll be making for BookTube. Question number 3 is, what is my favorite subgenre in nonfiction? My favorite subgenre for nonfiction is, I can probably say pretty confidently, medical, history, or medical information nonfiction. And second place, very close second place for me would be, or is, science nonfiction. And that science can run anywhere from a book like Isaac's Storm, which was about the hurricane that hit, the unnamed hurricane that hit Galveston, Texas in the late 1800s, early 1900s. Or it can be something along the lines of Stiff by Mary Roach, and that book is about what happens to the human body, or the things that can happen to the human body after a person has passed. I found that very interesting. Also, I am very interested in financial planning books for some reason. That's kind of my jam as well. So that would be the 3 subgenres that I would say are my favorite as far as nonfiction. Question number 4 is, do I have a favorite nonfiction book? Right now, my favorite book remains Team of Rivals by Doris Kearns Goodwin, which is a history of Abraham Lincoln. I read that book several years ago now, and it still remains, for me, just the best history book I've ever read. The way that the book was written just kept me turning the pages to see what would happen next. Understanding that this was the history of an actual person who lived, but it still felt like a novel. Again, it is my favorite nonfiction book to this day. Question number 5 is, what do you think keeps people from wanting to read nonfiction? My thought is, most people believe that reading a nonfiction book is a lot like a reading assignment in history class from high school or from college, or sort of any sort of educational situation where they may have had to read something that they were not even remotely interested, but because it was an assignment, they had to read it. So they felt forced to read this sort of dry text about something they're not interested in, and so of course it's boring. However, if you pick a topic that you're actually interested in and there's a nonfiction book about it, my belief is that you will be more engaged with the reading, more engaged, of course, with the topic since it's something that you're interested in, and that you're more likely to finish a book about a topic that you're interested in, a nonfiction book about a topic that you're interested in, than if it's something that you're not interested in. Of course, I would advise that you don't pick up a 1,000-page book about a thing that you're interested in, right? I would suggest that you pick up something that's maybe 200 pages or less about a topic that you're interested in, and try to read that book first before you dive off the deep end and pick up a tome about food rations in World War I. Question number 6, why do I like nonfiction? My answer to that is, I enjoy, well, for one, I enjoy reading, period. I enjoy reading nonfiction because I have the opportunity to dive deep into a subject that I'm interested in. I love finding out sort of the nuances of a person or situation or event. I love that kind of stuff. Just that really deep dive into a particular topic. That's kind of why after I read Team of Rivals, I went on to read, I think, Lincoln at Cooper Union. I think it's Cooper Union. I read another book about Lincoln that I cannot now remember what the title was. And these were library books that I checked out at the time. So, of course, I know that at some point I'm going to reread the book and get halfway through it and realize, wait a minute, I read this book already. But I'll probably just go ahead and finish it anyway. So that's one of those things that I really like about reading nonfiction books is the fact that you can learn so much about a particular topic. Question number 7 is, what is a nonfiction book I've read because of BookTube? Now, I don't have a book that I've read in the past because of BookTube. However, I do have at least 2 books that, well, now 3, because I was watching someone this morning and ran across a nonfiction book that I'd like to read. So the first book that I am going to read or going to put on my list to be bought and to be read is The Yellow House. And I'll make sure that I put title and author here somewhere along the bottom. That's the book that I ran across, or was mentioned really, by Russel at Ink and Paper blog, and he's one of my favorite booktubers, so shout out Russel. He discussed that book about this house in this particular area in New Orleans and sort of the history of the house from when this particular family bought it right up to what happens to the house after Katrina. And it also gives you sort of the history of that local area, that neighborhood, including the Yellow House that the author grew up in. So I'm excited about that one. The second book that I want to get because of a booktuber that I watched is The Word by Marita Golden. And this book was being discussed by Dee Dee at Brown Girl Reading. And Brown Girl Reading is one of the first channels that I followed when I sort of discovered BookTube. So and I really still love her content. I think she's great. Brown Girl Reading is also hosting the read along with Count of Monte Cristo. We are scheduled to be done at the end of this month, so we'll see probably a lot of videos. Look forward to some content, I'm sure, from me for sure. So there are 2 books that I am going to purchase in the future, very near future, that I discovered because of BookTube or having watched someone discuss the book on BookTube. Question number 8 is, what's the best nonfiction book you've read lately? That's a hard question because, of course, at the pinnacle is my reading of Team of Rivals. I've got quite a few memoirs that I've read recently that I enjoyed. And right now, I'll even say right now, I'm reading Heavy by Kiese Lehman. And you know that I read Long Division by him. It was one of the first videos that I even put up on the channel. So I'm currently reading this book, and I've actually been saving the memoir How We Fight for Our Lives by Saeed Jones. But since I'm reading Heavy, I'm probably going to go ahead and read How We Fight for Our Lives. But I was really trying to save it. Does anybody else do this? There's a book that you feel is going to be really good and you don't want to read it just right away because once you get finished, you don't have that book to read anymore. So anyway, that's what I've been doing with the Saeed Jones book. But like I said, since I'm reading Heavy, I'm probably going to go ahead and read How We Fight for Our Lives because having met the author and him being a very fabulous person, I guess I'm going to go ahead and read it and just look for more books from him in the future. Question number 9 is, what are some of my nonfiction reading goals? I really don't have goals as far as reading books. Well, I guess I can say this. One of my goals can definitely be to, rather than always just buying a book, to go to the library and use the library more often to get a copy of the book. And so in that way, I can actually utilize my local library resources more often. And then if there's a book that they don't have that I'm interested in getting, well, then I can request that they order the book so that not only will I have a chance to read the book, but other people, once I'm done, of course, will have the opportunity to read the book as well. So I think that can be a goal for sure, is to utilize my local library for my nonfiction reading. Question number 10 is, what advice would you give someone to incorporate more nonfiction reading? I'm going to go back to what I said earlier about picking a topic that you are interested in already. Because already, if you've got that interest, you are more likely to continue reading if you are interested in the topic. Also, go small. Don't pick up a 1,000-page book and expect that you're going to get finished with it. It's 1,000 pages. That's a lot of reading, especially if you don't already have a habit of reading established. So that's my advice. Pick a topic you're interested in and make sure that the book that you pick up about it is on the smaller side, between 150 to 200 pages to get you started. Well, so it's definitely clouding up outside, so I guess this means that I've come to the end of the video because I'm losing my light, my golden hour. I don't know if it's the golden hour yet, but I'm definitely losing my light. That's all I have for today. Thank you so much for stopping by. If you enjoyed this video, drop me a like. If you're enjoying the content thus far, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. I greatly appreciate it. If you'd like to be notified when I drop a new video, go ahead and hit that notification bell. And remember, whether it's a fiction book or a non-fiction book, there is always time to read. Bye-bye.